Let's be deep in it. Let's get through the feelings. Then let's go and plan the will, the living will, and then let's party our asses off for 6 months. I mean, let's literally party our asses off.
I'm going to live life to the fullest. And then I get in my car and I go to work and I go to clinic and then I come back. And then I'm like, is that living? I don't know. Is that like,
Steve goes, all right, on the low side, but on the good side, like how much longer could I get? Like he was always looking for that little bit extra.
what does that look like? Because I kind of feel bad that maybe I'm not a digital nomad in Thailand living my life to the fullest. Like I'm also a grown up and I've got responsibilities.
Whatever it is that you want to do, why the hell shouldn't you? What is holding you back? One life, one chance. This is it. Do it.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong?
Okay, hello Dr. Humans, welcome back to the poddy, and today's episode where I'm sitting down with a very special guest, Nina Gervase, who I think we can all learn a lot from as doctors, not only for our work as doctors, but also we have a lot to learn from Nina when it comes to how to truly live our lives to the fullest, no matter what life throws our way. Nina is one of my favourite humans on planet Earth. She's also a mom, she's a widow as well, she's an author, speaker, podcaster, and a very successful real estate business owner, and she also has an incredible story to share. In this conversation, we'll be discussing aspects of the doctor-patient interface when it comes to caring for someone with a terminal diagnosis, as well as connecting with our own lives and questioning, are we really living life to the fullest? I think there is no better person to explore that question with than Nina. So welcome to the show, Nina. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me today, and all the conversations we've had in the past. It warms my heart that you asked me to be on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Oh, of course. And I feel like I knew this was going to happen because we met at a retreat over in the States and I flew over there and I was talking to you at the dinner and I just was thinking, who are you, this person, and all these things, and it'll unfold exactly the magic of you. So I don't want to give too much away right now because I want it to unfold the way it did for me, because you are such a light in the world and you live your life in such a full way, and just meeting you, you would never know this story underneath, and I think that's really impactful. So I guess I just want to get into it. Obviously you're over in North Carolina in the States right now, yeah, so far from here, but can I ask you a little bit about your story? Like, because obviously, like right now, everything's, you're a very, very successful person and you always have been successful. But I feel like there is a story there that we're going to obviously base everything in this conversation on. So can you take us back to your story?
Yes. So the way that we got to North Carolina isn't necessarily everybody's move to North Carolina story. My husband had a brain tumor, an astrocytoma. He was diagnosed when he was 23 years old. And I actually met him post-diagnosis and actually post-resection, his first surgery. And when he was diagnosed at 23, they said, hey, you have 18 months left to live. And he was like, yeah, right. Hold my beer. I'm going to live longer. And, was on this journey of very positive, using his mindset to extend his life. So fast forward a few years, we meet, we get married, we have children. And when I'm pregnant with my son is when his tumor came back. And the only place for us to get the treatment that he needed was at Duke, here, University in North Carolina, through an experimental trial. So we were going back and forth from New Jersey to North Carolina every 8 weeks with a sick husband, a toddler, pregnant, then a newborn, and so forth. Finally, I'm like, dude, we are moving to North Carolina. She's going to start kindergarten. It is time for us to be situated there with your doctors so I don't have to go back and forth all the time. I mean, it was like, it should be an 8-hour drive, but when you're nursing a newborn and you have a sick husband, that drive becomes like 10 plus hours sometimes. And I was just tired of doing that. So when we moved here, believe it or not, his tumor on the MRIs showed that it was all but gone. Like the treatment had done what it was supposed to do. It killed all the little capillaries that were feeding the astrocytoma, and it looked like a little pink prick, like that was it on his MRI. And then a few months into being here, he had a grand mal seizure. And that grand mal seizure showed that the tumor went into explosive growth state. I was like, they showed me his MRI, Christine, and I'm like, I'm sorry. That is not my husband's MRI, because it literally went from here and it took over his like whole brain. And I couldn't believe it. I said, there is no way that in less than 4 months, because he had just had an MRI about, he was coming up ready. So almost 8 weeks prior, that in less than 8 weeks, this nothing turned into everything. And they said, that's what happens during massive, growth state. And I couldn't believe it. And at that time, we asked, like, okay, what's the prognosis with this? And they were like 6 months, probably. And Christine, it was like 6 months almost to the day from what they said. And honestly, it was a blessing to be here in North Carolina during this, because we were with his doctors and everything else. But then after he passed, I'm like, I'm not going back to New Jersey. I have to be here and raise my children here. And this is what we wanted together as a couple. And so the rest of my journey from that forward, a lot of it is like, yes, raising my children and doing the things, but also carrying on his legacy. Because one thing about Steve was how positive he was and how much he used his mindset to keep working. He worked through the whole thing, Christine, like all the years. He was a 13-year survivor. I'm not saying he worked the whole time like, hey, like I'm Mr. Strongman, but he had hard times, but he continued. He's like, nope, this isn't getting the best of me. I'm going to keep living and I'm going to keep doing. And that's part of what I'm doing right now is every time I accomplish something, I feel like I'm accomplishing it for both of us. Every time I, do something with the kids, I think, okay, I'm doing it for both of us. I'm carrying on the legacy that he would have wanted as well for us as a family and for the children. So yeah, I'm still here in North Carolina and won't go back. The family is pretty much up north and the kids love living here. And I think this was probably the best decision to stay in North Carolina. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
And now we are 15 years out from him passing. So this April was 15 years since he passed away. It's crazy to think that he's been gone that long.
It's just incredible though, because I almost want to take back to, so I actually hadn't realized that you had known about the tumor when you met him. I thought that had happened during your relationship. And then I kind of wondered, did you know what you were stepping into? Did you know what the potential was?
No, so I would go with him to his doctor's appointments with his mom at NYU in the city. This was even before the recurrence happened. And, just met the doctor, MRIs. He was off of his chemo eventually, probably about 6 months into us dating, he was off of his chemo. And it just sounded like, well, from here on out, you just do scans and, that was it. No mention of the fact that these astrocytomas and these brain tumors have all these little tentacles that are already spread out throughout your brain and are potentially just waiting to grow, like they're just sitting there dormant, waiting to do something. And would it have changed my decision to be with him? Hell no. He was such a great guy. I mean, he was so phenomenal. It would never have changed my decision to marry him or do anything. What it would have changed, however, had we known this was going to reoccur, the decisions we would have made in terms of how we built a home and, the money that you put into that versus experiences and different things. So I think we would have planned differently than we, carried forward without knowing it. When we went to one of the doctors in New York after the recurrence, when it came back that second time, the doctor looked at us and he said, didn't you know this was going to come back? And he looked at him and he goes, well, why would I think it was going to come back? He said, didn't any of the doctors explain to you how these tumors work? And Steve was somebody who very much was focused on the positive and didn't allow, as a patient, any of the negativity to come into his bubble whatsoever. His mother handled a lot of the health things at that time. And so he didn't ask and he didn't know. And she didn't, I don't know if she knew or she asked, But I was very much different than his mom when it came to his healthcare. I was like, nope, I want the good, the bad, the ugly. Give it to me straight. I need to know because I need to plan. And so, again, I think if we knew, we would have planned differently, but would never have changed getting married, having children. I think when I look back now, I think about, gee, he was 23 years old. He was told, you have 18 months to live. He never imagined getting married. He never imagined having children, let alone two beautiful children, two healthy children. He never imagined any of this. And we built this beautiful life together. And I got to witness him be a dad and, have fun and play and have tea parties with his daughter and all the things. So I would never have changed any of my decisions had I known that it would have come back. So yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful because it sounds like there was kind of a knowing, but kind of also a blissful not knowing, and whether that was kind of a choice. And I think it's fascinating because although I'm a kidney doctor, I don't know a lot about brain tumors. But I think in a general sense, obviously medicine has come a long way and there might be a lot of things I don't know about right now. But in a general sense, it feels like, oh, like that doesn't sound good. And even I wouldn't intuitively think that that sounds compatible with the life that he did get to live. And so it makes me think that Steve's mindset and this canceling any negativity, like chances are he probably was told something negative, right? And amongst that, and he was just like, nope, block. And then how that allowed him to live in a different way. And I think I'd love to talk to you a bit about that from your perspective, because as doctors, we're sort of encouraged to obviously tell the patient the truth so that they can plan, like what you're saying, right? It's only fair to give people honesty when it comes to their prognosis, their diagnosis. But I also find that the truth is that just like Steve, I've come across people like this before who are like, oh, okay, that's very nice, but I'm going to go and do this, 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 and this with my life. And they often exceed medical expectations. And so it's a tension with me in terms of, is there a potential harm that can be caused by our negativity in this space? But we have this responsibility to share what we see as the truth, even if it is not the truth for that patient. What's your thought on how medical people behave in conversations like this?
So I wasn't there to hear the doctors the first time, right? Give him the prognosis and his reaction and everything. And I absolutely agree that they had to have said it in front of him. He was 23 years old and his mother was there and everything, right? Knowing what I know about Steve when everything came back, and even if he heard, which he did, whatever the prognosis was, he wasn't going to allow that to dictate what he would and wouldn't do. He himself was not a woe is me and that sort of thing. He made a decision right at that moment that he would only allow positive things into his bubble. He wouldn't allow family members to come and talk to him negatively about it and so forth. So he knew that he was protecting his path forward by using his mindset. Now, as he went along between diagnosis and resection, it was 3 years. They didn't even know if he would make it to resection. Remember, they said 18 months and he went 3 years. So during that time, he had seizures, he had setbacks, he had different things. And he never himself allowed it to stop him from going forward. Even when it came back and the doctors would say, okay, Steve, expect X, Y, and Z to happen. It was knowledge that he had tucked away, but not that he allowed to dictate his life. And it definitely did not dictate our lives. I'll give you an example as we were kind of chatting about what a doctor is saying and how much, to give versus not give. When the tumor came back that second time and we were sitting in the hospital under hearing, okay, this went into explosive growth. This has taken over your brain. There is no going back. There is nothing that we can do. And then kind of pausing, and letting us take in that information. And I approach it very differently than Steve. I want to know what to expect, but again, like he said, not to dictate. So we heard 6 months left to live. And I was grateful because then Steve goes, all right, on the low side, but on the good side, like, how much longer could I get? Like he was always looking for that little bit extra. And the doctor goes, or 18 months, right? He goes, I've heard that before, 18 months, like I can remember him just, going. I said, or one or the other. I said, but let's plan for the 6 and live for the 18. Right. So there was a matter of the doctor having to, he paused, or she paused, and she gave us time to absorb the information. And as I needed to be a realist and understand the gravity of the situation, okay, 6 months. On the good side that it could be 18 months, even better, but I need to plan for the 6. I had small children. I had finances. I was barely working. So there were so many factors to bring into it. And Christine, I'm a planner, right? So when we found out, I think, Christine, you heard this part at dinner. I was like, all right, let's take 3 days to really cry it out, get all the emotions out, and tell the family and tell everybody, right? Let's really just be in this and not brush it aside, not brush the emotions aside. Let's be deep in it. Let's get through the feelings. Then let's go and plan the will, the living will, do all the things, all the paperwork we need to do. And then let's party our asses off for 6 months. I mean, let's literally party our asses off, which is exactly what we chose to do with the final 6 months of his life, was live it like he had 18, but party and have fun and travel. I mean, I took him to the beach within the last couple weeks of his life. I wheeled him out there on his wheelchair and everything. But because I was grateful that the doctors had given me that knowledge that there could be 6 months and not the false hope of 18 months, I was very grateful for that. And we planned for it and we lived for it and we enjoyed every minute of the 6 months. So when it happened at 6 months, I didn't feel like I got cheated. I didn't feel like I was cut short. I was planning for that. And then if I got more, I would have been grateful. But that's what I planned for. And I can't even get over how it was almost to the day that they were right about it. But I just feel like they were so knowledgeable about everything that was happening with him. They had been seeing him already for 3 years as a patient. And they appreciated that he would always want to be on the positive side, and Nina wanted to be on the realistic side, not the negative, the realistic side. So they knew how to navigate us as well.
But I think that that's beautiful, because what came across there was how grateful you were for that honesty, and I think that is honestly how I do these conversations in my practice, is like, okay, well, let's like hope for the best and plan for the worst. Like, that's a sentence that I use because I feel that I don't want to limit people either, but it means that you can hold space for, like you say, anything better, but also make plans. I think that is so beautiful, the way that landed for you. That's really, it sounds like those doctors did a really good job of that. But now I want you to drop us into this moment, because I mean, as doctors, we have a lot of things that we sort of deal with in doctor life, but also in our own lives. And I think something that we know we're going to go through in this life on planet Earth is grief. And you were just saying how you got this horrendous 6 months for Steve to live. That it was quite clear there was no other option, and you were hoping for more, and you gave yourselves 3 days to cry, wallow, and then you partied, like you say. And I love that. I love that you just lived life to the fullest that way. So good. But I kind of mystified, having not been in that exact scenario. Like, how do you do that? Because I could imagine myself going to party but kind of crying my eyes out and during the party. Like, how do you actually do that? Yeah.
I mean, I can remember there was a big birthday party for one of our friends that we went to. And, he wasn't having full seizures, partial seizures. Honestly, he looked the best in those last 6 months than he had looked leading up to it, because now he was off of the chemo, off of the stuff, off of the steroids. He was just himself and he looked fantastic, and I was up dancing and he didn't have the strength to quite dance. And I remember looking over and everything was like the last, right? So it was like, this is going to be the last party. This is going to be the last Christmas. This is going to be the last everything. But we didn't approach it always with lots of tears. It was just appreciation, if I can say it that way. Like it was, oh my gosh, this is his last big party. we are just going to appreciate every moment and take pictures and all this stuff. And the only time I remember him really crying during all of that was when we went to that last vacation in Hilton Head. I'm like, dude, I think you got a little bit of time left. I literally said to him, like, so I'm going to take you on vacation real quick. And he was like, okay. He wasn't really fully speaking at that point, and he was in a wheelchair and he lost use of the right side of his body. So he was kind of just going along with whatever I made him do at that point. And I'm like, I'm taking you on vacation. And his mom came along. She met us there and was watching the kids. And I took him to one of our favorite restaurants in Hilton Head. And I remember him just kind of sitting there looking at me. And he just started, for the first time ever, he cried. And he was like, these are the last times, Nina. And I said, yep, they are. And that was probably the only time I saw him do that, was when he really just grasped this was coming to an end very quickly. But other than that, I mean, it was appreciation for the moments. As I said, it was, we're in it. We were living it. We were still going to the doctor. Remember, we're still like doing, still seeing people because they still were checking him every now and then, even though at that point he was on hospice care considered, like no more treatment. But the doctors were grateful to see him out and doing the things as well that we said we were going to do, and not just sit home and wait for it to happen. And that when we were in it, I have a picture. I'll never forget this man. He insisted that we go to this lake in New Jersey when we were there for Christmas. It was so damn cold. I mean, the wind was so bad. I think it was like 0 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill and everything. And so we're sitting out there and it's blowing, and he insisted on watching my family fishing and having the kids there and having a time. And he was having active seizures at that moment, not big, but active seizures. And I was like, I think you should get in the car. You should sit down. He's like, nope, we are going, we are taking pictures. I'm going to be in this moment and I am going to be a part of this. I'm not sitting in the car and having them feel bad or worry about me. And it wasn't so much he didn't want them to see him that way. It was that he didn't want it to control his life and he wanted to enjoy it. So I can only imagine what he must have been thinking through all of this, but he was big smiles, big happiness. He was such a jokester. Oh my gosh. And he was still playing practical jokes on people, and he was still doing all this stuff. So here he is, the one being told, you only have a few weeks or a few months, whatever it was, to live left. And he was still in there. He's like, all right, let's go. Let's go.
It's absolutely incredible and such a testament to his character. But I was just thinking this about you, but I'm also thinking about him and this strength that comes where, like, me thinking about your situation, I'm like, I would just be not strong at all. I would be falling apart. I would be unfunctional. But then I think the human experience, when you're actually in a situation like that, it is kind of amazing how you actually are as opposed to how you think you would be. But I'm thinking about you, and obviously, like, Steve would have been doing what sounds like the same thing, putting a smile on it and just making this time as special as he possibly could and as positive as he could. And I think I really wish I'd met Steve. He sounds amazing. But then I'm thinking about you and how much you're holding, because you've got small children
Oh yeah.
and this situation. And so
Body training too. Oh.
like just having small children, step one. But having small children in this situation, you're grieving for yourself, but you're grieving for them, and they are so little in like preschool at this stage. Like, was anyone supporting you? Like, how did you actually like get through that? Like, yeah.
I mean, I had wonderful girlfriends who were there to listen to me, and they very much supported the let's have fun, let's be, let's live life to the fullest with all of this. Listen, girl, I was still complaining that man was not taking out the garbage when I asked him to. So he wasn't getting off the hook just because he had 6 months left to live. I'm like, dude, he's still not taking out the garbage. What the hell, kind of a thing. So I feel like they allowed me to be normal. They're always like, Nina, we can't get over how strong you were, da da da, this and that. But as you said, when you're in that moment, you're just doing all the things you had to do. And I didn't know any different. I didn't know any different that I had 2 small children and a sick husband. It was just moving forward. And they did everything that they could to support me. Even towards the end, I had, people coming by and visiting and doing all the things. And actually, when he was actively passing, I had the kids go stay with a friend for that last couple of days. So they were all there surrounding me with what I needed. But I think what I needed was just to still be a wife, and still be a mom and still have those gripes, aside from my husband passing. I was never upset about, if I was grumpy about something, it was about that garbage didn't go out. I'm telling you, to this moment, everybody's like, Steve never took out the garbage when he was supposed to. But, like, they allowed me to be me. And the doctors put me in touch with counselors here for Francesca because she was older. She was 5 when the tumor really went into that explosive state, and 6 when he passed. So she was more aware. So we had counselors set up for her. And then also they put me in touch with a Facebook support group for brain tumor caregivers to patients. And I still have good friends from that. I still have people from around the country that I haven't met but are good friends from that. So they gave me a community to help support me and talk about the brain tumor stuff that only people in that community would understand, like losing, the right side of his body and everything like that. So I was grateful that the doctors gave me that community. They were the ones who answered my questions outside of normal life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The importance of like having people that know what you're going through on such a deep level and support groups and things. That's beautiful as well. And I guess I'm keen to sort of talk about, because getting to know you, obviously, I'm just meeting this current version, and you strike me as someone, and I want to actually talk about your sort of mission and how you want to influence people in the world this way. But something that comes across so clearly in you right now is that you're determined to live your life to the fullest and encourage everyone else to do the same. And coming from you and knowing your story, it hits me harder. Like it hits me in a real way. I'm like, oh, yep, of course, like having just heard what you've been through. But I guess, were you always like that? Or is that who you became in this process?
So, Nina's family and friends would tell you she's always been a little stubborn, and stubborn, I'd say, carried me through a lot of things in life. Determined, I would say, was a better word than stubborn, but stubborn's true as well. Nina, me, I've always been somebody who has been very strong willed, who has been very determined, who, when I was told no about something, I was like, I don't think so. I know I can do that, and would find a way to do it, much to my mother's dismay. So I have a strong will within me. If Steve used to say, "Oh my God, thank God you were my wife," I couldn't handle somebody who was wishy washy or crying or whatever the case may be. Like, girl, I'm Sicilian. I got fire in me, and I've always had fire in me. And he needed somebody who was going to be that way for him. So I would say, like, if the universe brought two people together, we were brought together in such a way that he gave me such an incredible life. Like, even now, I have my beautiful children, I have this home, I have all of our memories, I have all of our things. So he gave me an incredible life, and I gave him an incredible life. So we built something that, even though he's no longer here, we still carry on into the future. And that wouldn't have been possible if I wasn't a strong-willed, we'll say that, and determined person. But yeah, I've always been that way. And I mean, my mother was so strict. She wouldn't let me do anything growing up. And I know she's not listening to this, so I'm not worried about it. But I backpacked through Europe. I was like, no, I'm going to go backpacking through Europe. My friend Stephanie and I, backpacks, we went backpacking. Okay, I'm 50. This was before cell phones. This was payphone era when you had to payphone back to the family back in the States. So it was not like GPS and all that stuff. It was books and that sort of thing, getting to know where you were going. So I would say that that side of me served me well when being a caretaker, and then post caretaker, and having that ability to, okay, organize and plan for what we were going to do up front, and then enjoy the rest of the time. And again, having that strong-willedness to say, no, we're going to have fun. We're not just going to sit here and cry through this all. So it was important for my personality to be what it was to carry us through, for sure.
Yeah, but it's also kind of I guess, yeah, so some of that, yeah, it's just how you are and it's just your makeup. But I think it is interesting to think that there is a choice in it because I feel like the exact same scenario, two different people dropped in, there's another way to be. There's a way that wallows in foreverness. Like you're saying that Steve's still a part of your life and everything you do, he's weaved into the fabric. Yeah, that's what you're saying, right? And you can see that and you frame it that way. And I'm sure it breaks your heart at times. You know, I don't think it ever leaves. And I know you've made a podcast about that and it was heartbreaking, but also powerful. Like, you're not saying it's an easy road to walk to continue to do this, but there's other people who would have a narrative and a story that is so negative and so stuck and they're just not living their life. So I think maybe it is a personality, but it is also a choice. Can you speak to that? Yeah.
It is a choice, very much so. And now Steve made the choice to focus on the positive. Steve made the choice to live the way that he did when he was diagnosed. And then again, for me right now, today is a perfect example. My son had his very last tennis practice ever. He's been a very competitive tennis player since he was 9 years old. He's 18. He's graduating high school and moving on. And throughout all of the things that he's experienced, my daughter has experienced, we go through and I'm smiling and I'm enjoying it. And I'm like, but then there's always understanding Steve's missing this, you know? So I talk about in that, especially in that podcast episode, the fact that I can hold joy in my hand and hold sorrow at the same time. I can have grief and happiness at the same time and not allow the grief to overcome and take over the happy moment. Honoring him, I think that's the right way to say, honoring his memory in this, honoring the fact that I know he would have loved to have been a part of it, probably made a lot of jokes that day and embarrassed the children, which would have been more fun because it wouldn't have been me embarrassing them. It would have been him embarrassing them. But, it's when we think about, all the things going forward and even right now, the choice is I'm going to be happy in this and also miss him. I'm going to celebrate my son and all of his accomplishments and not forget the fact that my husband didn't get a chance and he was the athlete, not me. He would have loved to have been here for all of this. And I know my children feel it, they feel it for sure that daddy would have been the one to do these things with us and he would have enjoyed it. And he's not here. Yeah.
Yeah, and having to hold both. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to conceptualize. But I know I have experienced that once in my life, like holding grief and happiness at the same time. They actually can coexist, but I wouldn't have believed you unless I'd experienced it myself. Like, oh, I just think that's absolutely amazing. And I guess I want to come on to more about your mission now, because obviously you were always who you were, it sounds like, but then obviously shaped by this experience and continuing to be shaped by this experience that is just part of you now. But what is it that you're sort of moving into now and your impact on the world?
Well, when I think about, so I turned 50 in January. I love it. The fact that you've heard me say that I feel like my first 50 years happened to me. And all of the events that took place, obviously you have no control over anything in your life, right? But as they happened, it was reaction, reaction, reaction. And not that we can't live our lives that way. I mean, it's inevitable that things will happen, but I want to really be purposeful and I want to be very cognizant in how I'm spending the next 50 years. I want to plan for certain things in a different way. And part of that, again, is carrying Steve's mission forward as well. Like when I think about, he didn't just react when he was diagnosed, right? He made a plan. He went forward. He didn't just allow it to happen. And I've been in reaction mode for so long. I've been in, even with my job, I'm very grateful to be a super successful realtor and all the other things that I'm doing. But I feel like that all came as a reaction to something else. And I just was in the motion of reaction rather than intention. And if I want to live with intention, I have to back up and reflect. I do a lot of self-reflection. I do a lot of that. And so I want to bring that to women. I specifically want to work with the women who don't believe something is possible, who want to do something, who are afraid that they don't have the strength to move forward in a new direction or anything like that. I was that person, and I was the person who just kind of allowed life to happen. And yes, I was planning and I had goals, but it wasn't with the same intention that I seek now. And then that's where I'm going. I mean, my podcast is based on that. My books are based on that. All the stuff that I'm doing is just very much intentional and bringing that to women. I want to bring that to young adults as well, as they are getting ready to start out, to hear like, dude, you literally can do anything in this life, anything you want. There is no limit to what you can do. None. I mean, Steve was completely, one of my inspirations for that. There is no limit to the possibilities of what you can do in this short life. And that's just it. Life is so short. We have to live it to the fullest of every single moment. We do not know how long we will have, what will happen, and different things. So yeah, you better live it with intention. You better live it with love, with joy, and with all the stuff. It's not always going to be joyous. And there are so many people in terrible situations in this world, in their lives, in their homes, and everything. But for me right now, I'm praying that if I can give women just a little bit of strength, a little bit of hope, a little bit more confidence to move forward, that's what I want. I mean, people say to me like, "Oh man, I'm in admiration of your strength." I'm like, "Take it, borrow it, borrow my strength." I always tell people like, "Borrow my confidence, borrow my strength, borrow this," because it's just a matter of affirmations and telling yourself that you can do it. If you repeat it enough times, your brain is going to be trained to believe this. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with believing that you are a wonderful person and that great things will happen to you. And that's what I'm trying to help other women to do.
I love this so much. And what you just said about being in reaction mode and kind of life happening to you, I think, as busy professional people, we can so relate to that, right? And it's just like you just go, 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 go all the time. And then but there's this part of me that's, especially when I do come across like a really sad thing that happens, even at work or in my own life, and I'm like, right, I'm going to live life to the fullest. And then I get in my car and I go to work and I go to a clinic and then I come back and then I'm like, is that living? I don't know. Is that like, can you speak to that? Because obviously you are a
Yes.
busy, productive woman. You're go, 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 go all the time. And you're
Mhm.
also in this like really living your mantra of living life to the fullest. But what does that look like? Because I kind of feel bad that maybe I'm not a digital nomad in Thailand living my life to the fullest. Like I'm also a grown up and I've got responsibilities. Tell us
You
more.
know, that my goal is to be a digital nomad someday. So there, I'm like heading in that direction. But, you know, living life to the fullest is living in gratitude. So one of the things that I love to do each night is I have like this journal, we'll just say kind of sacred practice that I do. And I start off by saying, what is something that I did 1% better than yesterday? Just 1%. What is something that I did a little bit better today than yesterday that I can see that I'm growing as a person? And then I look at what are 3 things that I am so grateful for. And it could be just hearing my children's laughter. It could be whatever the case may be. This morning, we live in a part of town where we're not allowed to have chickens. And I was hearing chickens this morning. I'm like, where the heck are these chickens? Like, so I'm grateful that I heard chickens, even though I don't know where they're coming from, but I'm going to find them. So, I mean, like, I go into gratitude. And I think that that idea of I'm not living life to the fullest, when you step back, and I am somebody who likes an actual pen and real paper for journaling these things, because I feel that it really just solidifies it for you. When you put that down, then you realize, oh, I really am living life to the fullest. Like, I saw a shooting star last night, or no, it was this morning actually, when I was walking the dogs. It was very early, it was very dark. And I saw a shooting star and I thought, that's living life to the fullest. I looked up and I saw something miraculous. That's living life to the fullest. And I also then in the journal prompts, I look to say like, all right, well then what's something I can do a little bit better tomorrow? So I can look to, again, grow a little bit more for myself. And then I always finish with an affirmation to tell myself, I am a great person and I'm trying to do better for others and that sort of thing. So being in service and in gratitude, I feel is living life to the, it doesn't have to be even though I would love to be a digital nomad right now in Europe, it doesn't have to be that. It can be exactly where you are right now and appreciation for everything that you have.
Do you know, I have never heard anyone frame it that way, that living life to the fullest is just finding the magic in your day to day. I'm translating what you said and being grateful. But I think it is, there's so much truth in it that when I hear it, I understand it as truth. But it's like literally 30 seconds ago before I asked you that question, I was confusing myself. Like that is
No,
actually
it's true.
beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to see a shooting star and hear chickens. Listen, I was up way too early with a dog that was not feeling well. So I had too much happen to me before 8 a.m. this morning. But if he wasn't, think about this, right? Like I was a little frustrated that I was up so early because he wasn't feeling well. Poor guy. He can't do anything without me. So of course his mommy's going to take care of him. But if he had not been ill, then I would never have experienced those things. I would have never seen that shooting star. I would have never heard those chickens. I would have never had that moment. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of special.
It's absolutely incredible. And then when you were talking about the journaling as well, and you do this as a daily practice at night time with the 1% better today, that's really great because obviously we hear about gratitude and I should do more of it. I used to be good at it. I go in waves with these things. And my journaling practice is often kind of just brain dumping, getting stuff out, or thinking about my future goals or whatever it is. I think I could do with a lot of help in this area. And I feel like this is one of your zones of genius. And, you've actually got, is it something coming later this year with this? Can you tell us more about that? And yeah.
It's the Why the Hell Shouldn't I book. And it's just the idea of all of the things that you feel and you want to do, and you hold yourself back. And either you're holding yourself back because of other people's beliefs of what you can and can't do, society, you've never gone for it, so you don't want to fail in front of other people, whatever the case may be. Why the hell shouldn't you go for it? Again, you only live this one life. So you might as well go out and live it to the fullest. And that's what the whole book is. It's like, why the hell shouldn't I? And then it gives you a passage to read. And it's meant to like really get at your heart and get at all the things that you're really feeling inside. And then it prompts you with a question of, okay, now journal on this. And it gives you a really thoughtful question of what you just read and how are you going to apply it to your life. I mean, there's so many things that when you think about it, you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to, I don't know, dye my hair pink, whatever the case may be, like, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do, why the hell shouldn't you? What is holding you back? One life, one chance. This is it. Do it.
I love that. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this book. When is it coming out?
I'm hoping that this will be out by the holidays. So
okay, well, we'll maybe just have you back for another conversation when it's, because I absolutely can't wait for that. But I think as doctors and everyone listening, I think or certainly I can speak for myself, I resonate with that, especially in my training. There's so much conformity and so many shoulds, and we're kind of going through the motions, doing our training and kind of ticking the boxes. And, we think, oh, it's such a great thing to be a doctor and it kind of impresses our family or whatever. And you're doing these things. And then I think it is common for us to really be like, wait a minute, am I doing this for myself? Am I doing it for someone else? Like, what do I actually want? And we can get a bit lost. I know that happened to me, just being on the conveyor belt, but I don't think it would be unique to medicine. I think it would be just, you've picked a career or whatever, and we grow and change so much that like after 7-10 years, it's always useful to just have a wee moment with yourself and be like, okay, am I still that person? Like, yeah, can you speak to that?
I think that we are constantly evolving, that we should have as many different careers and lives that we want, out there. We should be able to reinvent ourselves anytime that we want to. And you're an example of this, right? Like going into a field that said, okay, after you do this, then this linear progression. And you were like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to try and do this as well and go in a different direction. And that's, to me, the best fortitude ever, to be able to have the strength and do something different. I want to constantly evolve. I still have dreams of all these other careers I want to do. I would love to go to a nursing home and be the activities director for people in a nursing home. Like, to me, that's so exciting. The first thing I do is bring puppies in, like, let's have puppy day and bring all the dogs in. But, why not? Why not have all of these different careers? And for doctors, I mean, I know so many, even my friends and stuff, that are They're like, now they're out there rock climbing and they're doing all these things and they're, now they're doing videos on this. And somebody went into teaching AI and doing all this other stuff. And why not? Why not? Why not have the opportunity to evolve and do more things? I love the idea that we are not stuck. We're not pigeonholed into anything. Why not go and do something else? Why not?
Yeah, I think it's so beautiful because it's so embodied for you, but I know there was like a past version of myself that was like, "Oh, really? Me?" So I guess I would love for everyone listening just to let that really land and really ask yourself the question, like, are you living life to the fullest? Is there something that you want to do? And like really borrow Nina's energy, borrow Nina's confidence, and also her story and ground ourselves in like what it means to be alive and the preciousness of life and how just so beautiful it is, and redefining that, living life to the fullest might not be all those big, like, big massive goals that you have in your head, but actually just the day to day and the awe that we can find in the world around us, in ourselves, and people that are close to us, or pets as well. I think that's just such a beautiful thing. Like, they just help us to see what's the truth of being alive. It's really gorgeous, our animals. So I think that, Nina, I just feel like you have such a powerful message and story to share, and you're on such a powerful mission. And I think, in terms of, you said you wanted to help women, but I think you're going to help so many more people than that with this messaging. I think you touch on like just the human experience in such a deep way that I think that you apply the message that you have to share should apply to just everyone. And as doctors, I think it's been so beautiful for me to listen to your story and share it with everyone here because, this podcast is called Am I Doing It Wrong? And I think grief and suffering and being at that interface, whilst that's where we are as doctors, we seldom know if it was right or wrong for that patient. So getting a chance to close that loop and hear how those conversations were impactful, they gave you the direction you needed to plan for what you needed to do in order to get everything set up to support you, whilst also allowing you to have that optimism. I think that that's a really key message here. Is there anything else that you would like to say to our beautiful doctor humans listening?
I think the one thing that they hear in my story, right, is a lot of positive and optimism and having that vision to move forward. And you won't always find that patient, it won't always be that. And many times patients get stuck, and that's their journey. And it can't, no matter what you do, I have people in my life that you can't get unstuck when they're in that medical journey and that woe is me, and that there's nothing anybody can do to talk them out of it, unfortunately. And it's hard to watch that happen. It's hard, as both caregivers to see that happen, to friends to see that happen. I'm sure as doctors, you're just wishing that they can find a positive path forward. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen for everybody. I hope that I can give somebody, as you said, some strength to find that strength to move forward in a little bit more positive a direction, but nobody can be forced. That's just it. And when they're ready, they'll be ready, and they may never be, but everybody's journey is unique and can't be upset with them for it, unfortunately, right? They have to do it their own way. So it's going to be important for, as doctors are treating people and they're going forward, everyone's going to be unique. You're trained in that. So it's tough to deliver news when the people on the other side are going to just dwell in it. And I feel very bad for doctors when that happens versus when they were sitting across from me. I'm like, just give it to me straight, doc. We got planning to do. So there are many paths forward, many.
Yeah, I think that's important, meeting that person where they are and leaning into what they need from you. That's an art form, isn't it? Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I feel like, I follow you. I'm obsessed with you, like to the end. Your podcast is one of my favorite podcasts on planet Earth. If you are listening to this, you obviously like a wee poddy. You need to go over right now the Nina Gervase show. I will leave links in the show notes. Go and listen to the podcast, follow the show. If you want to just have Nina's energy in your ears and feel limitless, which is ultimately how I feel when I listen to your podcast, that is the magic of that podcast. So I would highly recommend everyone go and do that now. There's so much gold on there. You will feel unstoppable. It's just the Nina effect. And Nina, is there anywhere else that we can follow you and so we can watch out for this book coming on Instagram? Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, I'm on all of it. So, But yeah, if you just look up Nina Gervase, I have both my real estate profile and my life coaching. It's Care, CARE, Care Life Coaching, and Cary Area Real Estate. And so I'm on all of it. I'm on all the different platforms with both personalities. So
Yeah, and I love both. And Nina like also runs around Instagram where she doesn't just go for a walk. She has like this like mad weighted vest on, and I just think weighted
ah,
vest, that's a goal.
and you don't see, I even have weights on my ankles too, and I actually now got them for my wrists. So, girl, I'm like all weighted up. Bone density, man. That is the conversation of the moment. Bone
Of course
density.
you do. I need to get onto my bone density, but I just go for a wee stroll, like my little puffer jacket at the moment. Anyway, goals. Be more like Nina. Absolute goal. But yeah, go and follow her everywhere. And of course, you do offer coaching as well, don't you? Are you open for clients right now or?
Yeah, actually, I am. And it's just been a joy to see my clients taking steps into things that don't feel good. People don't always want to explore certain things and they like to stay on one trajectory. And then when you bring it up and they're like, okay, fine, we'll coach on that. To see all of the strides that they make, that's where I get energized. I'm like, yes, look at you, look at what you're doing, and constantly reminding people of how far they've come. That's probably my favorite part because, again, you get so in the weeds you forget how far you've come. So I love to do that.
Yeah, you're so powerful. I could just imagine you as a coach. Yeah, and that's great. You've got space as well. You've got some, you can take on some clients. So if anyone listening is resonating and looking for someone to get them unstuck and help them live life to the fullest, yeah, I mean, get in touch with Nina. Would they do that on Instagram or is there a particular avenue to do that?
Yeah, they can just DM me on Instagram to get
DM
started
on
for
Instagram.
sure.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here, Nina. I have loved this conversation and I hope everyone listening, I'm sure you loved it too. Thank you so much for being here and we'll see you again on another episode very soon. Bye.
We get so many heartfelt thank yous from our fellow doctors for having these vulnerable conversations on this public podcast. If you want to say thank you too, we would be most appreciative if you left our podcast a review. Reviews actually mean everything to us because they're what make the platform share this podcast with all the other doctor humans. And our mission is to make as many doctor humans as we can reach feel more human. Just go to the podcast app, click on the show, and find the option to review. The other way you can help us is just by sharing the podcast with someone in your life who you know will say, thank you for saying that, or tagging us on social media. And if you're in healthcare looking for speakers for your next event, or professionals who actually get it to facilitate the vulnerable conversations our teams of doctors need, request us through podcastfordoctors@gmail.com.